company with plenty of room for advancement.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Live from the heart of Lincoln, America.
Welcome to Ticket Weeknights
on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome in. Happy Sunday, as always. Again, shout out to our last show, What's Next 24 with Mike and Cher. Really great hour. If you guys want to go back, it's always on YouTube. And they had Rick Skadden on. He just dropped a book, 4-time felon. Really interesting. He kind of goes through his background and everything in it. So again, you can go back in the last hour on YouTube, or you can just go look it up. I'm sure it's pretty easy to find. Just type in Rick Skadden, and that info will pop up. But we got plenty of Husker sports to talk about. It was a busy weekend for the winter sports, as well as there's some big things coming up here. I'm going to probably leave Husker football alone today. That's kind of been a big talking point. We do got NFL playoffs later as well. That will be taken over on the brick and mortar. So if you guys want to stay hooked up to local content, Ticket app, easiest way to do it. Or if you got YouTube Play, you can just keep watching on YouTube. 402-464-5685. Starter name and text line as always. And you can also text in on those streams. All right, I think the first thing to start off with is Husker Hoops. 20-0 start. You go on the road to play a Minnesota team who they've been struggling a little bit, but they've been pushing teams down the stretch here. And anytime you got to go to Williams Arena, the barn, and play Minnesota on the road, with any Big Ten game on the road, but in particular in the barn, that's a tough matchup. And especially Minnesota's team who plays, I thought, really good patient basketball. They are right up there with Nebraska when it comes to really doing put an emphasis on taking care of the ball and making that extra pass. They have, I don't know where exactly in the Big Ten they are, but I want to say they're close in that top 3. If not, they may even be first on total assists per game. They do a really good job sharing the ball, and you saw a lot of that in the first half, which is I think what gave Minnesota, a pretty good push that Husker fans were feeling confident. And you've seen this team be able to pull them off in the past, but there was a point where Minnesota was able to steal the lead for a second, and then the second half opens up, and it's all Huskers. We'll go into some of the basic stat lines and then the team stat lines to get an idea on how this game went. Again, the Huskers win it. They stay undefeated, 20-0. The number 7 Huskers, good chance they move up to 5 with the new 8 people, but we'll have to wait and see. And then, of course, they take down the Minnesota Gophers. 76-57 was the final score, and a lot of it was that second half. The first half, Minnesota, like I said, they actually come out leading it. It is 36-30 heading into the locker room. Gophers are up. And then the second half, they get outscored by more than double, 46-21. That lets Nebraska take over in a pretty dominant fashion, to the point where you get to put our bench players in there for a couple minutes, let them go step on the court, get their reps. And like I said, it was just that 46-21 second half where Nebraska basketball completely took over. And it's one of those things where I'm sure if you guys kind of feel it too, but you watch this Nebraska basketball team and you look up, and even when these first halves, whether it's been Oregon or Minnesota or Northwestern, it feels like really close back and forth basketball game. And then you look up in that second half, it's always an avalanche that seems to head in Nebraska's favor, where these guys have just taken over. Same thing, Indiana. I believe at one point trailing by 16, and second half rolls around. It's hard to keep that same discipline consistently, I think, for two halves. That first half, you credit Minnesota a ton for their defensive ability. It looked tough for Nebraska. Nebraska was making really great passes. They're running a really good offense, but you give credit to Minnesota for making Nebraska really work through it and occasionally having to get Nebraska to, just have Fred Hoiberg quick call set and try to get something going there. But Minnesota's ability to play really good defense, sound defense, and they're going to still give up points and occasional runs to the Huskers. But I thought their commitment to that end of the floor was the biggest reason that they ended up 36-30 in that first half. And then on the offensive side, they just had a much better half shooting. The ball was moving a little quicker in that first half for the Gophers. And on top of that, it's easy, to get that ball moving when you're knocking down shots. Those closeouts got to be a little bit more aggressive on defense. You end up chasing a little bit more than maybe you should. And, they're doing a good job of that. The Minnesota Gophers in that first half, I don't exactly know what their 3-point percentage was, but it was much better than what it ended up being by the end of the game. They really cooled off in that second half. And again, I think some of it was they were going cold, and the other half of it, as a result of going cold, was they started rushing things a little bit. You're watching Nebraska and Price Sanford, who we'll get into, start to really get going and catch their rhythm. You start falling behind, and it felt like that's where Minnesota lost their composure a little bit, was when Nebraska really started putting their foot on the gas in that second half. The offense looked a little bit more rushed for the Gophers than it did in that first half. Some of the team stats for this one, not too surprising. The rebounding numbers stick out, but the field goal percentage, Nebraska was solid, just about 50% on the night. They were 48% from the floor, 29 of 61. Minnesota, only 40% from the floor. On top of that, as a result of turnover, second chance points, Minnesota only got 53 shots in this compared to Nebraska's 61. So you got that first differential right there in Nebraska's favor, on top of shooting the ball better overall from the floor. The 3-point line, Nebraska also won that battle. They shot 32%. Not great, not bad. You'll take it. 9 for 28. The Gophers, they took 3 more threes, but they were a little bit colder with them. They also made 9. But like I said, they took a few more. Their 3-point shooting percentage was 29%, another category in Nebraska's favor. Free throws, Nebraska had less, but made all of them. And Minnesota had more, but missed quite a few. Minnesota was 6 of 12 from the free throw line for 50%. Obviously, easy math there. And then the Huskers, 9 for 9 for 100%. So again, another category where Minnesota could have at least taken that one away. And it felt like the refs, I hate doing this every time with the officiating, but it's so inconsistent at times. And there were some really bad calls, I thought, in particular in that first half, and it kind of cleaned up a little bit in the second. But I thought Minnesota got bailed out a few times on some of these calls. And for them to just botch it at the free throw line definitely helped in Nebraska's favor. Like I said, 6-12. I'd imagine the Minnesota coach not too happy about that one. Rebounds, another category where you look at this team for Nebraska, and you don't want to get into the stereotypes, but everyone's seeing the memes. It's a really good rebounding team. Not the most athletic team out there, but when you have guys like Burke Berjutengel, who's willing to just throw his body, Rink Mass, to, maybe that doesn't look like the most athletic guy or incredibly mobile, but just really good at holding his ground and being able that when he does get a body in someone, he's got enough of that core strength, leg strength to just keep people pinned out. And that, again, allows for some easier boards. And then also, you get a guy like Sam Hoiberg, who thinks to guys like Burke Berjutengel, and then, of course, Rink Mast. Some of the guards can come in there and quick sky in for a rebound and transition the other way. Nebraska wins the rebounding battle 39-31. They win it on the offensive glass as well, 8-7. And just, again, another really impressive stat that goes in Nebraska's favor. So when you add up all these things, you can kind of start to see how Nebraska ends up running away with another dominant win despite being on the road. You get to the steals. Nebraska had 5. Minnesota had 2 blocks, 8 blocks for the Huskers in this one to Minnesota's 2. Total turnovers, Nebraska has 8. Minnesota has 13. Another category in the Huskers' favor. Points off turnovers, Huskers get 13. Minnesota only gets 11. Fast break points. Nebraska actually had 0. Minnesota had 8, not a lot in that one. Points in the paint, a little bit different style for Nebraska today. I thought, the way Minnesota was defending in that first half, super glued on Price Stanford. But also, I thought they did a good job trying to take away that 3-point shot. And the Huskers, again, you just look at that offense. They seem to have a really good counter for everything that you want to try to take away. You saw that in that first half. The Huskers did a really good job attacking the paint, saying those were the spots that they were going to get their best chances, catching guys closing out, trying to do a good job closing out on that 3-point line. And then Sam Hoiberg, Cale Jacobson, Jamarcus Lawrence, making them pay for maybe being too aggressive on a closeout and quick. I don't even want to say making a mid-range pull-up because no one ever shoots those on those team outside of Jamarcus Lawrence, but making really good cuts to the rim and just good passing overall. Even Burke Berthingel, I thought he had some pretty nice passes in there. Like I said, that points in the paint, I thought 36-24, that stuck out for me, for Nebraska, to be able to do that kind of damage, which is not necessarily their DNA. I don't even want to say that. It's not what they've shown a ton of this year, but they've shown it enough times that they have the ability to do it. That if the defense is going to be too aggressive on closing out on shooters, or if they're really disciplined, you got to swing the ball around so you can find an angle to cut. Everyone's got their eyes up. It's one of every kid who's played basketball has probably heard that from their coach 100 times. And that's why you do it. This team, by and large, keeps their eyes up and makes really good passes. And I think you'll see that at the high and low game. And I talked about Burke Berthingel. He had a really nice slip pass in there. Jared Garcia was one that had that really nice slip pass to Rink Mast. But again, Garcia, not a veteran player by any means, but just really good discipline. And I think it pays off playing for this team. You just flat out see what good basketball is supposed to look like. I've been pleasantly, giddy to hear all these announcers when you're hearing some of these games called, and you'll hear these announcers just kind of talk about, when you're watching this Nebraska offense, like this is what you need to show kids, because this is a really fundamentally sound offense that doesn't rely on athleticism or size or certain attributes to just bully teams. They destroyed teams very tactically. And if you were to add, some 5-star athletes and they're able to play in that same system and stay just as disciplined as these guys are, who knows? But I don't want to take anything away because I think that's kind of the mastery of these guys. And, guys like Sam Hoiberg have put in a ton of work to get into some elite shape, to have the size to throw his weight around. And of course, you see the agility with him. And then same thing with Cale Jacobson. I mean, I know he's only the second year, but you can already see a little bit of a bump from him, that he's getting a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger. So they're definitely putting in the time and work. But it just goes to show that when you're playing good basketball, a lot of these categories that we go through, we're just looking at the team stats for Nebraska versus Minnesota, they all start racking up in the Huskers' favor, and that's what gets you to 76-57. And when you look up, before you know it, the Huskers have run away with another dominant Big Ten road game. Largest lead for the Huskers was 19, and like I said, Minnesota had in that first half for a little bit. Their biggest lead was 8, but did not matter. Huskers pull away, win it in that second half. Some of the main guys to talk about, the first one is obviously Price Stanford. He's just a weapon. And this is what I meant talking about that first half defense for Minnesota was really impressive. For everyone who watched the game that woke up nice and early at 11 a.m. to a treat that was Husker Hoops, it was impressive to see the way Minnesota was making, I don't want to say Price Stanford uncomfortable, but making other people beat them. And that was kind of, to me, it felt like the first half plan. And you saw Sam Hoiberg step up big time with 14 points. If you're going to command all this attention to Stanford, then they're going to find a lot of ways to attack mismatches. If you're going to try to switch off Stanford just to keep up with him, or if you're going to just keep all focused there where you're maybe not going to be sitting in a good enough help position to where if a guy like Sam Hoiberg goes baseline, are you going to be there to help out? And a lot of times in that first half, the answer was no, because if we get off of Price Stanford, and I think it's a fair argument to make for Minnesota, he's going to make us pay for it. And all game long, all first half long, it was a lot of that, of not allowing him whatsoever to get going and making other guys step up. And to my point, Sam Hoiberg stepped up. Certainly, Jamarcus Lawrence stepped up in big time moments. He had 14 points along with Sam Hoiberg. And then Rink Mast wasn't the best game from Rink Mast. I'll say that, but he was having his moments where you could tell he was trying to enforce himself on the offense. Wasn't taking bad shots by any means. I think it's just been a little bit of a cold stretch for him On 3-point shooting, he's still got just a really nasty hook shot that anytime he goes to that hook shot, I feel pretty good about it. The 3-point shot has ebbed and flowed ever since, we kind of got this middle part of the season, but no real worries about Rinckmask's game. I think his offense is not something that you can bank on of like, we're going to get 17, 15 points from this guy every night. But there are nights when you can get, 20 to 30. And who knows, you might even sniff a 40-point game if he's having a good enough night from the 3-point line. And he's just kind of a heat check player. You can tell when he's got it going. And a lot of times if he makes a couple of threes, he's a little bit of a rhythm player. But like I said, he was 3 for 11, wasn't his best game, but you didn't necessarily need it with the likes of Sam Hoiberg, Marcus Lawrence coming in there and playing big minutes. And then Cale Jacobson, he had 25 minutes in this game. He's getting more and more time. Part of it, Sam Hoiberg got into a little bit of foul trouble, nothing major, but enough for him to get pulled out in a few occasions that allowed Jacobson some more minutes, but he does good with it. He only took 4 shots, but he made 3 of them. So he finishes the game with 7 points. He gives you 2 assists, only 1 turnover, but he gives you a steal on top of it as well, along with 3 rebounds. And he's another one of those guys that, much like Sam Hoiberg, has just got really good IQ, where if you're going to deny him the 3-point shot, you'll see it a lot. He's got really good touch around the rim. Even when it looks like not the most orthodox shot, or he feels a little bit rushed, whether it's the shot clock rushing him or his foot works a little off because a help defender came in and made it a little bit uncomfortable, he's got some nice touch around the rim. So he's a guy that I'm curious to see how he continues to evolve in the future, because he's showing his 3-point shots been pretty effective, and his inside game is a lot better than I would have anticipated already. I mean, again, Minnesota was a big physical team, and there's a few occasions in there where he saw Cale Jacobson just muscling his way to a basket, getting this guy just to hesitate for a little bit, and he'd go up there, kind of twist his body in a way that isn't orthodox. But when you got that soft of a touch, it'll work out a lot of times. And that's kind of what Cale Jacobson's been doing. So he gets 25 minutes and did good with it. Again, that's that stat of Cale Jacobson. Anytime he's played more than, I want to say it's 10 minutes, Huskers are undefeated. Well, at this point, they're 24-0. You count the streak. It's been 361 days since Nebraska basketball has lost a game. We are 3 days away from a year on the calendar. I mean, it's incredible. I'm sitting here with my Husker Red on, and I've loved watching this Nebraska basketball program for so long. And for these guys to pull this off, to be thinking I might go an entire year with not having to witness Nebraska basketball lose a basketball game, it's hard to imagine, considering where we were not very long ago. I know it gets annoying for some people to hear this because it's getting talked about a lot, but it is crazy when you look at Indiana football and then you go look at Nebraska basketball. 2 teams that are built on veteran, experienced players and a coach who's got a lot of good winning history in the past. Now, Fred Hoiberg wasn't, I'm going to come here and flip the program, but in Cignetti's case, when he went down there in Indiana, he was able to bring a lot of his guys from James Madison. And then, he's done a good job in the portal. That's one thing Cignetti doesn't always get credit for. It's not just the James Madison guys, but he's been very calculated when he went down there in Indiana, keeping some of those guys that were there. I mean, he had some key players that weren't on that James Madison team that were on Indiana that he was able to retain and kind of plug them into the system. But, just kind of make that comparison. It's nuts, the college sports era we're living in. There's a lot of negative stuff that you hear and see, and partially I'm part of it at times because I don't always agree with the NIL. And you saw that with Alabama, and I believe it was Tennessee the other game, where Alabama had a guy who declared for the NBA draft, does not get drafted, goes plays in the G League, and midseason leaves the G League and is now playing for Alabama Crimson Tide. Like, that obviously feels broken and needs some adjustment. So those are some of the negatives that I don't think we have to lie to ourselves and say everything is fine. There's nothing wrong with college sports. But NIL has opened up a door to some of this chaos where teams can't just, pay players and lie to everyone and then have an incredible roster every year that no one can understand. I can't ever get these guys to flip no matter what happens. Well, a lot of those guys are getting money, and it makes sense to, as if you're a kid, especially if you're not coming from money, if someone's going to give you a ton of money. Jay Foreman says it, and I agree with him. Like, if they're stupid enough to give you the money, take it. And unfortunately, that happens a lot because you got a lot of adults in the room who I don't think always have their morals in check, and they just kind of go for the best players out there, regardless of the situations that surround it. But on the other side of it, it has allowed for just, a lot of chaos that's kind of tilted the balances on what a powerhouse dynasty looks like. I'll be curious to see, who is that next powerhouse in football, basketball, who can retain not just being a dominant team for 1 or 2 years, but, can anyone go on the runs that Saban did in the past? Maybe Indiana will be that team here and kind of prove that wrong. Or in basketball, maybe Michigan or Nebraska, if we all hope, can start being that team. But it's going to be tough to do. You want older players, you want continuity, but you also want to develop that next high school level, or maybe you have to throw that out the window and only get a few high school players every year and really focus on transfer portal guys or those more veteran players. Hell, go get yourself a G League guy like Alabama did, because apparently that's possible. You can just go do that, or go get yourself a guy who's been playing in the pros in Europe for 4 years and is 25 or 24 years old, but has no college experience yet. Just bring him in the door, because we're not too far away from seeing that one. Just probably put that one in the book. We'll see a ridiculously older professional, not even just European. It can be any other pro country that's a foreign country, or pro basketball team that's in a foreign country. And we'll see those guys somehow go to college and be playing, getting paid X amount of dollars and just go dominate in college hoops. But to my point, it does open up the door to some possibilities, and not allowing dynasties to just really get a chokehold on sports. And we'll see how Nebraska basketball benefits from 20-0. I don't know how much money this program gets for NIL and how much funding they have to go through, but I imagine that number certainly takes a jump after this season. And who knows? I mean, if you're a player out there and you're watching Nebraska basketball, I think that would look like a pretty intriguing offense to go play for. And then defensively, that's the one where if you're a player, that's a lot of work. those guys are running around a lot. You'd have to really commit, and that's where you got to shout out Lenzer for his job on that defensive end of the court, and how good of a job he does getting those guys prepped. But it's an incredibly intriguing team right now in the middle of the country, and I'm sure they'll get a nice little jump in their NIL funding. With that being said, that's not a whole lot left. I can point out a couple of the guys for Minnesota. Durkin had 16 for the Gophers. Crocker Johnson had 12 points, but he was one of those guys in that second half where things felt like they started falling off the wagon. He was 4 for 16. He looked a lot better in that first half. And in the second half, again, it felt rushed at times. It felt like he, in particular, had a few threes that were just unnecessarily rushed. Or in their defense, Nebraska was doing a really good job, just making everything uncomfortable. So there's a few where the shot clock was not in a favorable spot, so he did have to go ahead and rush it. But like I said, he did not finish with a great stat line. 12 points, but 16 shots to get there. He was 4 of 11 from 3. And a lot of that was in a short little run where it was looking really effective, then it cooled off. Basuma, he was 0 for 5. He played 28 minutes, only in 0 points. Really struggled on that one. Tyson for the Gophers, he had 12. And then Reynolds had 7. And then off the bench, they only had a combined 10 points. And same with the Huskers, actually. Huskers only had 10 points combined. Just shout out Kendall Blue. He gets in the game and knocks down a 3-point shot, which was good for him. I think text line can correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say Kendall Blue is from the Minnesota area. Yeah, he is. Birthplace, Woodbury, Minnesota. So it was cool for him. If you guys watched it all the way to the end, which I'm sure you would because another Husker win, he got a nice little applause at the end there. He drilled a big 3-point shot. Maybe not big because the lead was so big already, but a meaningful one. At there, he had a lot of Minnesota Gopher fans that were obviously still rooting for him and wanted to see him have some success. And he was out there just for a little bit of time, but he only took that one shot and he absolutely drained it. I will say it's pretty deep too. So shout out to Kendall Blue. I think a lot of people are trying to figure out what his role was going to be on this team, and it's kind of settled in right now, but it's nice to see a guy who's still completely invested into the team. So you know how this stuff goes. We may need him down the road, just like anybody else on this roster. All right. With that being said, we'll throw it to break. I will talk a little bit on the Husker wrestling side. So don't go anywhere. They got a big one versus Ohio State this afternoon. And then, of course, NFL Sunday, we have 2 NFL playoff games. that a lot of people are excited about. Not the playoffs that everyone probably predicted, but an interesting playoff nonetheless. Don't go anywhere. Thick weekends. Harrison Arns on the 1s and 2s. We'll talk to you in a little bit.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Lincoln's go-to for fun isn't new. It's a place that's been a staple of the city for years and is only getting better. Matson's Bowling and Billiards always has open bowling available with no long lines, unlike other centers. They have live music almost every weekend and great food at EJ's Bar and Lounge, with seating for 150 people. They have popular meals like the EJ Burger, pizza for the whole family, and famous EJ's Wings. Contact Sarah to book a party for friends, coworkers, or family at Matson's Bowling and Billiards, just south of 48th and Holdridge.
Looking for a financial partner that truly makes a difference? Modern Woodman is a member-owned fraternal financial services organization. We can help you plan for all stages of life, from protection to saving to retirement. We also offer member benefits, social activities, and volunteer opportunities to help your family and community.
I'm Sean Erickson, your Modern Woodman representative in Lincoln. Call me at 402-483-6515 to start the conversation.
Modern Woodman of America, touching lives, securing futures.
Electrical Enterprises in Roca reminds you, the men and women of our military dedicate themselves to serving our country. Their commitment and courage keep our country safe and strong. Let us honor those who have lost their lives in the line of duty and salute those who serve today. This from Electrical Enterprises in Roca. For all of your residential and commercial electrical construction needs, call 402-438-5822. We live in the land of the free thanks to the brave.
Way out there where the sun comes up under the big red sky, I do life the way I love, with family by my side. I feel home with me, no matter where I go.
Proud of where we're from, excited for where we're going. Pinnacle Bank, the way banking should be. Member FDIC.
MWR, a local company of Lincoln, is proud to announce they are able to offer their own post-frame building packages in metal to anyone desiring a building, whether you're a contractor or a DIYer. They can install your building as always, and they offer multiple different rib profiles and loads of color options, including the wood grain metal at great competitive prices. You can inquire at mwrbuildingandfence.com or just draw your desired building and submit it in their contact us page, and they'll get back to you. Call MWR today at 402-540-8966.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here. I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hi, it's Alyssa, an AmeriCorps member in my second year of service. AmeriCorps is about strengthening our communities. I have been impacted the most by the lessons students have taught me. They have helped me be more patient and grow as a person in today's fast-paced world. Serving at Partnership for a Healthy Lincoln and AmeriCorps has provided me new opportunities. AmeriCorps does that for people.
Visit servenebraska.gov. Paid for by Serve Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hi, I'm Scott Miller, Business Development Officer at Midwest Bank's Lincoln branches. As a lifelong Lincolnite with over 30 years of experience in financial management, I'm here to help your business grow and succeed. My focus is building strong relationships with businesses and clients across Lincoln. Because at Midwest Bank, we believe banking is about people, not just numbers. Visit us at midwest.bank or stop by one of our Lincoln locations. Your community, your bank. Midwest Bank. Member FDIC.
Winter is just around the corner. Is your vehicle ready? Don't get left out in the cold. At A1 Automotive, we prep your car for whatever winter throws your way here in Nebraska. For battery checks, brake inspections, tires, heaters, whatever your car needs to keep you and your family safe on the road, we've got you covered. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
Back to Inside the Huddle, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging. Here is your host, Jay Foreman.
Correction on the title. This is not Inside the Huddle. This is Ticket Weekends with Harrison Arens, but we can shout out Advanced Medical Imaging anyways, because those guys are great, and I know they keep our guy, Jay Foreman, running in tip-top shape because he was in the NFL for a while, and he did play a lot of college football. That does some wear and tear on the body, so shout out AMI. They'll take care of him. They'll take care of anyone. Just go out there, give them a call. They do great work. That being said, that's kind of where we left off with Husker Hoops. They are 20-0. Again, it is 361 days since that Nebraska basketball team has lost. Just a few days out from that team officially going undefeated over the course of an entire year. But in order to do that, they got a tough one. Michigan, before we get too far away from hoops, is their next opponent for Nebraska basketball, and it's going to be a tough one. Not favored in this. I'm not even going to mention the matchup predictor on ESPN. I think it's around 80-20. That's usually doesn't tell us a whole lot, if we're being honest. If that was always accurate, Nebraska would have quite a few losses on the schedule already, as they clearly don't. But it's Michigan, Tuesday, 6 p.m., number 3 Michigan at that. And it's on the road, so unfortunately we won't get to watch it here at the Vault, which you would love to have it here, but it sets up a lot. I mean, if you take down Michigan on the road, that is another top 10 opponent that you have beaten, and the second one that you would have beaten on the road, which is awfully impressive. So it's a good team, but they've looked a little bit more human as of late. I think earlier in the year, people were wondering if this was going to be a historic team, the way they were just beating up on everyone, and not just the lesser of opponents, but ranked opponents at that. Their only loss so far is Wisconsin, which is a team that we beat. They also lost to Wisconsin on the road. Part of it was Wisconsin was electric on the night in terms of shooting. But at the same time, it just kind of showed that Michigan does have some weaknesses that you can take advantage of. They're big games to take note of for Michigan. They did beat number 21 Auburn 102-72. They beat number 12 Gonzaga 101-61. They would beat number 24 USC 96-66. And right around here is when things got interesting and things slowed down a little bit for Michigan. Now, they're still winning games left and right. They only have lost the one, but then they went on the road and played the Penn State Nittany Lions and just barely won. It was a 74-72 win for the Michigan Wolverines, and it came down to a final second shot where Penn State just, I'll say it, flat out blew it. The last play was not what they drew up whatsoever. Then they would get Wisconsin at home and lose that one, 91-88. Then they would go play Washington on the road. They'd win 82-72, a 10-point victory, good win. But it's not at least like they were beating Rutgers or number 12 Gonzaga by 40. So like I said, they're still a very good team, but at least they look a little bit human right now. Then they would play Oregon on the road, a team that we dominated. I think we won by 30 plus or 20 plus points, 81-71, another 10-point win for them. Then they would play Indiana at home, 86-72. And then they just last game, they played Ohio State at home, 74-62. So they still have like very solid win margins on these. I just wanted to point out, at least we're not talking about Michigan beating Oregon by 50 or 40, the way they have been beating not just some of these other Big Ten teams and non-conference opponents, but these ranked matchups that they've been having as well. And they've just looked like the best team in college basketball until Wisconsin. And since that Wisconsin game, they still look very, very good. They just look a little more human, like a team that Nebraska shouldn't have to be scared of by any means. I think Nebraska is definitely capable of beating this Michigan squad. I know there's some people that still want to go with the argument that Nebraska is fraudulent. You know, majority of those people not being local to this area, of course, but just kind of being national talking heads. And at this point, who cares? I mean, you got 20 wins. You're almost a lock for the tournament. Take care of what's in front of you. And right there, it's the Michigan Wolverines, who I just kind of wanted to point out again, they don't look like they are just world beaters right now. They did for a moment, I thought, but they've cooled off. Still very good, but definitely beatable. That one is Tuesday, but also it's on Peacock. So I'm going to put that out there now. It is a Peacock game. I think there's one other way to tie that in. You guys can remind me, is it a Paramount? There's another subscription that maybe you tie it in if you don't have Peacock, but I am not all familiar with that because I do just go through Peacock. But just to put you on that notice that it's probably going to be a streaming game only, unless there is that other viable option that I'm unaware of. If you want to watch that, I'd imagine most of Nebraska does. It is a very big game. Not only is the statement for Nebraska men's basketball, but also, I mean, if you take down Michigan on the road, you kind of, in my mind, all the conversations about this team not being legit are officially over because that's impossible to look at that, all those quad one wins. It'd be 7-0 in quad ones and say, yeah, this team isn't legit. They'd be undefeated in quad two. I think they're up to 5 quad two wins. Just really impressive. And on a quick side note, shout out to the Husker women's basketball. They got back on the winning side of things. They took down the Fighting Illini yesterday. They went at 81-75. Notable scores in that one. Britt Prince, she was 6 for 9. Really efficient shooting from her, 20 points. She also had 8 free throws. Really efficient on the free throw line and was getting there a lot. Nisley had 15 points, efficient for her as well. She was 5 for 7. And Petrie, 6 for 11. She had 15 points as well. So 3 Huskers in double digits right there, and really just collective efficient shooting. You had some participation on the offensive scoring side from other players. No one really shot the ball bad. I mean, the worst percentage you'll see out there is a 2 for 6. That's the worst. Everyone did a really good job who got minutes, and I think that's just what leads up to a nice, solid win there. It's team effort when everyone's just taking really good, smart shots. They were 49% from the floor, just short of 50, and they were 43% from 3. Again, just to point out that efficiency that they had versus Illinois, which is good. They need to get back on the winning side. They were struggling a little bit in conference play once they got there, really losing to all the ranked opponents in Big Ten play so far. This was a good one to get back. They're still in a very good position to go make a March Madness run and get a spot in the tournament. That was kind of one you needed to have to get back on track, and they certainly did that. On the Husker wrestling, it was kind of a tough one versus Iowa. For anyone who missed it on Friday, it was an awesome crowd. So I should start off with that. Shout out to all the Husker fans that went out there. Nebraska wrestling, once again, has broken their attendance record, and I'm going to keep selling it. You guys need to go watch Husker wrestling because it seems to be a more awesome experience every time it goes on. I wasn't sure with Iowa. It was freezing. I was working Friday for the postgame. I was kind of hanging around the ticket, and we're down here on 1040 O Street. Qdoba is not even a block away, and I almost froze. It was miserable just trying to go get that. I just walked over there real quick, and it was horrible. So I was like, we'll see what the crowd looks like, how many people are willing to go out there. Shout out to Husker Nation. I mean, that place was packed just short of 8,000, like I said. New attendance record once again at the Bob for Husker Wrestling. And, even got some comments from Iowa fans. I was watching some of the side interviews, and I know some of the Iowa Hawkeye fans were kind of nudging at Iowa, like, maybe we should get the raised platform. This is kind of awesome. It makes for a better viewing experience, and it certainly does. The tunnel walk on top of it, just awesome. Unfortunately, the results didn't quite match the way we wanted it to. Kohler lost in that first one at 125. I actually thought he wrestled well. Again, Rachel Lovett talks about it all the time. Obviously, a former national champ. There's those certain matches where you gain your confidence, whether it's losing close to a top-ranked opponent or it's winning big versus a top-ranked opponent. It feels like he's there. I don't really have problems with that, but he falls in that one, and you're kind of struggling. You lose another one. Brock Hardy gets it back and puts the Huskers in a somewhat decent position to potentially be back in the match. Brock Hardy also gets some history in the books. His 100th win, which you have to be very good early and very good for a long time to do that. So shout out to Brock Hardy. And after Brock Hardy, I don't want to pin it on a kid because, again, it's wrestling, but the Chance Lamer match really hurt Nebraska. Gave away a lot of points in that one, and it went from Chance Lamer potentially being able to pull it off in a win to a flood of points and a major swing for Iowa. And when I saw on TV was not a wrestling team that was outclassed, but was just a few moments away in multiple matches where things kind of fell apart for him. And that's where I'm not super disheartened. I don't know if people would say they were disappointed in the match, but felt like, you wish you just maybe would have saw a different result. Because again, I thought we were really close. The Lamer match is probably the best example of it. Felt like in control. Then before you know it, like I said, the Iowa Hawkeyes kind of pulled it out there late and really flipped the tide. And from that point on, a lot of pressures on everybody else. Minto, he wrestled really great, but once again, just kind of late scenario situation. The Hawkeyes end up pulling that one out as well. AJ Ferrari, he does go ahead and get a win. And, the highlight, once again, I thought was Antrell Taylor. He's just a machine. You even saw some people getting really upset. They thought that shouldn't have been a point called for stalling that goes in Antrell Taylor's favor. But, he's just been on an absolute heater right now. Antrell Taylor feels like he's on one of those national championship runs. He seems to get better and better as each match goes on, and he's been clutch down the stretch. I won't lie to you and say I've been watching wrestling my entire life, but from the time I have been watching wrestling, I haven't seen someone with a clutch gene like Antrell Taylor in wrestling. I don't even know if that's the right term to use, but he is just getting some late match wins in incredibly phenomenal fashion. So shout out to Antrell Taylor. Like I said, some good and bad in that one. I think the score would make you think it's worse, but some of those matches were actually pretty close. Let's see. Okay, shout out to Bill and Bennett. Going all the way back, quick rerun. Husker Hoops basketball. He says, the radio broadcast will work just fine for me. I will never pay for Peacock. So there you have it. You can always just listen on the radio. That is one way we can beat the streaming. If you guys don't buy it, and I guess I shouldn't say that because I do have Peacock, but if you do want to beat the streaming, if no one buys it, then maybe they'll just put that back on those classic channels, and then we can all enjoy it again like we used to. But yeah, it's going to be on Peacock. You can listen on the radio like Bill and Bennett did. Go Big Red Captain on YouTube. Shout out. He was in that record crowd, so you deserve a ton of credit for it. He says it was an awesome atmosphere. And the Iowa 133rd pound wrestling is I got the sun of my eyes. Apologies. This is a Loth brother. Is a lot better than his record. 2-time runner-up and right now. Yeah, in nationals. That was one of the things. And when you look at Iowa, you're going to see that some of these guys, you'll be like, oh, he's not starting, or he's, not ranked yet. Sometimes they're not ranked because they don't have the matches yet to put them on paper. And other times they're just that good in terms of depth. Like that's what we're dealing with when we're talking about Iowa and Penn State and Ohio State, which by the way, that one later this afternoon, please go to that one as well. The Huskers could definitely use the support. Ohio State is a very dangerously good team. But yeah, Iowa is loaded to the gills on talent. So that's what I mean. It was still an impressive duel for Nebraska because I thought they were really close in a lot of those and could have pulled them off, but that's wrestling. Doesn't always work out in your favor. Don't go anywhere. We'll throw it to break. We'll wrap up on some NFL Sunday. If I can get the sun out of I can't even see the cursor. That's how bad the sun is getting right now. Well, if everyone's driving in your car, drive safe, put on your shades as that sun is absolutely beaming down, but at least the sun is coming out. Hopefully we get a little bit warmer weather today. I do know it's supposed to not be as miserable as it was yesterday. All right, like I said, we will throw it to break though. NFL playoffs on the other side to wrap things up, and then we do get Fitness Fanatics with Jeff and Nicole Essing for the next 2 hours starting at 9 o'clock. 93.7 The Ticket, ticketfm.com.
All right, fellas, it's January. You're setting goals, you're hitting the gym, but have you checked what's going on inside the engine? At Advanced Medical Imaging, the Wellness Within program makes it easy. They have different levels of preventive scans so you can choose exactly what fits your health goals, from quick baseline checks to full body insights. It's simple, it's smart, and it's all about keeping you in top form before problems ever sneak up. And the best part, you don't need a doctor's order. Just call AMI to schedule and make this the year you put your health on the schedule. MHC isn't a new company, just a new name. Moe's Moving is now Moe's Home and Commercial. Whether moving across town or across the state, MHC Moving has you covered, specializing in home, apartment, assisted, and independent living moves. MHC can handle your commercial moves as well. MHC Moving has 0 hidden fees. You'll never pay for same-day booking or be charged for stairs, heavy items, or elevator fees. Rates are the same Monday through Saturday, and you will never pay a truck or fuel surcharge. And they offer payment plans through PayPal. Call MHC Moving today at 402-853-7167 or go to mhcmoving.com.
Just got the brakes fixed on my car today.
You did? You haven't even left the office.
I didn't need to. I got a guy who picks up my car and drops it off when it's done.
Well, who's your guy?
Graham Tire. They have pickup and delivery service at all 5 of their Lincoln locations.
Schedule your service online on the Pickup and Delivery tab at GrahamTireLincoln.com. That's GrahamTireLincoln.com. Let us do the running. Some limitations apply. See store for details.
Eustis Body Shop started as a single shop in Eustis in 1979. Since then, we've been getting Nebraskans back on the road. We treat our customers right and have never forgotten our roots, even as we've grown to 8 locations across the state. That's why Eustis Body Shop works hard to ensure our customer safety and offers free loaner cars to keep you moving. Eustis Body Shop, where our customers send their friends.
The most recommended Eustis Body Shop. That's who we are.
Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstorats.com for amazing offers. And if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
Ticket listeners know a dream team when they see one. At Applied Connective, we've been in the game for 20 years and have developed a team of world-class leaders in all things IT. From cybersecurity and Microsoft products to physical security, audio-video, infrastructure, business phone systems, and anything in between. We'll help you leverage technology to become your most secure, efficient, and profitable. Head to our website to check out real reviews and testimonials and sign up for a free tech consultation. We can show you where you might be vulnerable, inefficient, or overspending. It's a game changer, and it's totally free. Claim yours right now at appliedconnective.com.
What does it mean to be rich? Maybe it's less about reaching a magic number and more about discovering the magic in life. I'm Ryan Buck, your Lincoln, Nebraska, Edward Jones financial advisor. Count on me for your financial strategies that can help support a life you love. Because the key to being rich is knowing what counts. Contact me today at 402-483-0377. Again, that's 402-483-0377. And let's find you rich. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Looking for a financial partner that truly makes a difference? Modern Woodman is a member-owned fraternal financial services organization. We can help you plan for all stages of life, from protection to saving to retirement. We also offer member benefits, social activities, and volunteer opportunities to help your family and community.
I'm Sean Erickson, your Modern Woodman representative in Lincoln. Call me at 402-483-6515 to start the conversation.
Modern Woodman of America, touching lives, securing futures.
Tune in to Outside the Box from 4 to 5 p.m. for everything you need to know about the Lincoln Stars. Join head coach Rocky Russo and play-by-play voice Alex Byrne as they sit down with special player guests to tell the story of the Lincoln Stars and give you all the news and notes you need from around the USHL. That's Outside the Box with the Lincoln Stars on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Live from the heart of Lincoln, America, welcome to Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back in. Excuse me. Harrison runs on the 1s to 2s, wrapping up here. A little bit of time left before we get to Fitness Fanatics, and then we'll go for 2 hours. Then it's Pete Ferguson, Bigger Than the Score, The Breeze, Haas the Breezy, myself, and DP. And then we'll get right back on track with, I'm not going to go through every show. We're here all day, and you guys can look up the order on our website, 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com, or you can just go through our YouTube playlist, and they all have their own playlist. You can figure out the order there as well. But a full slate of local content and NFL content on the brick and mortar. And of NFL content, those games will be Buffalo at Denver, San Francisco at Seattle. The first game, or excuse me, that is the previous round. Let me go forward here. I wanted to give me the divisional rounds. The conference championships are New England at Denver and Los Angeles at Seattle. The first game, 2 p.m. kickoff, New England heading on the road to face Denver. And then the night game, 5:30 p.m., of course, Central Time for all of us here. Los Angeles hitting the road to play the Seattle Seahawks. And the England Broncos game, currently New England Patriots favored 3.5 on the spread. It'll be interesting. I don't know. I mean, it's the Stidham game. It's Drake May's first AFC championship game, and I believe it's Stidham's too. So we'll find out if the backup for the Denver Broncos has the capability to go on there and keep a cool head. He's certainly got a defense that you'd imagine to back him up, and the same's true for Drake May. He's kept a cool head. Can he keep that going on? And also, he's got defense that should be able to back him up as well. The Rams versus the Seahawks. This one's terrifying a little bit, maybe, for the Rams, because everyone just saw the Seattle Seahawks really decimate and do a number on the San Francisco 49ers game. That game opened up with a kick return touchdown for the Seahawks. And if that's all the Seahawks did on offense all day, that was it. They're good. Or I shouldn't say offense, just scoring. With the PAT, they win the game. 49ers only had 6 points in that entire game, which again, it's just hard to believe because you watch the Seahawks start the thing off with 6 and then the PAT to give them 7, and they just went by defense. They didn't really have to score anymore, but they score 40 plus points to go ahead and just really dominate in that game, which was surprising to me. I thought the 49ers would be hot heading into the playoffs. I know they were hurt, but Purdy seemed to be playing really well in particular. Didn't even stand a chance. So the Seahawks are looking really dangerous, although we all know in the NFL that it is a week-to-week type of thing where you cannot rely on dominating one team and then walking into the next one and expecting to dominate them the same way. So the Rams will have a game plan. We'll find out if it works today or not, but you got, potentially an MVP battle right there between, well, actually, take Sam Darnold out of it. I don't think he'll get up there, of course, but you got Stafford at the very least, who I think is currently still the shoe-in favorite. And this could be a pretty iconic year for Stafford in this Los Angeles Rams team. If he can pull this thing off and make it to another Super Bowl and give him the opportunity to go win it, that's big time for the Rams, who, we're not a lot of people's board. I don't think this year in particular, but it's been impressive. Puka Nacua has been an absolute menace, especially if you're going to play a lot of zone coverage. So keep an eye out for that. New England versus Denver, 2 p.m. Los Angeles Rams versus the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC, 5:30 p.m. Decide who will go to the Super Bowl. And I do believe, like I said, both those games will be on our brick and mortar as well. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. And if you guys want to keep listening to local content, download the Ticket app, especially before those games start coming on. But we do have quite a few more hours. Jeff, Nicole Essink coming up next. Fitness Fanatics, 93.7 The Ticket, ticketfm.com. Appreciate you guys listening, but don't go anywhere. We'll keep it rolling.